Hello and welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. You join us on the back of a bit of a ball draw against Nottingham Forest. Now, long-time listeners of the Albion Obsessed podcast will know that we usually go through a game, we analyse it chronologically, bit by bit, moment by moment. But today we're going to mix up that sort of template a little bit because I think we can all agree it was a very one-sided affair where not an awful lot happened, but there are still big talking points we want to dissect. But before we get into that, let's see who we've got on the show today. We welcome back Joe. Joe, my friend, how are you doing?
Hello, mate. Yeah, all good. As you say, a bit frustrated, but we move.
We move forward. Aaron, you were at the game last night, mate. We're going to be really interesting to see your take on it. But before we get your opinion on all of that jazz, how are you keeping, my friend?
Yeah, all good, thank you, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Stumbling towards half term, just waiting to get there, get a bit of
Yeah,
sleep.
not long, not long.
And we also welcome back Chloe. Chloe, it's been a while, but how are you keeping, my friend?
Oh, I'm living the dream. Yeah, brilliant.
Good skills. It's really good to have you back, Chloe. And again, it'll be really interesting to see how myself and Joe, how our opinions differ from Chloe's and Aaron's, who were at the game last night. So there's a bit of context for you. So I suppose let's not beat around the bush. Let's dive right into it. Last night's performance was incredibly frustrating, and we're here to dissect some of that. Let's start off at the beginning with the starting 11, shall we? I think it was really clear and obvious from the pre-match press conference that Adam Lallana would be in the squad. Roberto De Zerbi really open and honest that Lallana was going to start. But Joe, I was a bit surprised that it came at the expense of Pervis Estupiñán, who had had a pretty decent game prior, and it didn't come at the expense of Pascal Gross. So my question to you then, Joe, is were you happy to see Lallana in the lineup, and were you surprised that it came at the expense of Pervis?
I wasn't overly shocked that Lallana was brought in. I felt like over the last two games we needed that leadership on the field and somebody just to rally a few of the lads through the tough moments. And I think Lallana's done that really well when he has played this season and when he's come on in the last few fixtures. So yeah, and in terms of Estupiñán, I think he was just at an expense of a change of system. I know we started with three at the back yesterday, with Trossard and Solly out wide. So yeah, I think unlucky for him because he's done well going forwards, and I feel like he could have thrived in a wing back role, as I've said previously. But when you want to change something, somebody has to miss out. And it's just unfortunate that it was him, but I'm sure he'll be back and fighting for his place again.
Most certainly. So, Aaron, to you, my friend, were you surprised by the change in formation and personnel, or were you expecting a change after the defeat to Brentford?
No, I was expecting a change, to be honest. I didn't think Purvis played that well against Brentford personally, so it didn't surprise me to see him drop out. Surprised that it wasn't really for Gross, to be honest. I thought, Lallana and Gross together, as I said in the chat, very, very slow, but they're very technically fantastic players. There's no doubt in that. Changing system, like Joe said, it's someone has to drop out, and unfortunately, it was him.
Fair. Chloe, my perspective on Adam Lallana last night was really positive. I thought he had, especially in the first half, he was really influential. Now, as I've already alluded to, you probably will have a different of opinions of mine on certain things at the game last night. But I'm eager to know what was your response to Lallana's game? Did you think he had a good game, or do you think he was too slow? Do you think he was ponderous? What were your thoughts on Lallana last night?
I thought he was all right. He played a really good ball to Trossard, I think, at one point. But he did give the ball away once or twice, and I do think our build-up was just too slow yesterday. And when you're playing against a team that have 11 men behind the ball, you do need a bit more pace to get behind them sometimes. And it's not Lallana's fault that he doesn't have that pace, but yeah, I think when Lamptey came on, we had a bit more of that pace to actually get behind them. But yeah, I probably wasn't the best game to not have that pace. So a bit disappointing. Obviously, Estupiñán could offer that as well, so it was a bit, almost feels like the wrong players dropped out there because he can get behind them. But yeah, I thought he was all right. It was just, I don't think he was needed in that game, like, because he is slow and we did need pace to get behind a team that has 11 men behind the ball.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Aaron, I'm going to come to you next, mate, because you've been quite vocal in the last few games on our little group chat, and I think rightfully so, that our build-up play is very slow at the moment. And I saw a couple of times on the touchline, De Zerbi going absolutely mad because we had broken the press, what little press there was against Nottingham Forest. And then instead of driving forward, we passed sideways, we passed back. What are your thoughts on the build-up play at the moment? Is it, as Chloe says, too slow?
It's way too slow. Way too slow. It's like we get ourselves into fantastic positions, and then all of a sudden it's just like an invisible wall is there. So we turn back around and we start again. There's no need. We just need someone to penetrate that wall. You know, that's what we need. It's just so incredibly frustrating. If I'm honest, I thought against Brentford we were poor, even though we created so many chances. I don't think we played particularly that well. And the same again yesterday. I thought, admittedly, Nottingham Forest were hands down one of the worst teams I've seen in the Amex. Not even the Premier League, like just in the Amex in general. They were just, the fact they've spent £40 million on Morgan Gibbs-White in itself is just an absolute joke. They should be relegated just for that, to be brutally honest with you, because good player, don't get me wrong, not £40 million worth though. Hell no. It's all well and good when you're playing nice football and everything goes your way. And Potter leaving us when he did, it's unusual for De Zerbi to come in to a club sitting fourth in the table, not fourth from bottom in the table. And it's very unusual for that to happen. And it seems like we've woken up back in 2020 when Potter cannot buy a goal. And I read somewhere earlier that, I don't know if it was taken out of context, but De Zerbi said something on the lines of, you know, at Sassuolo I had players who could score perfectly fine, but here it's different. And it's a bit like, okay, well, he's not wrong. And he has, I think, to be honest, he has a right to dig out the strikers. No, actually, not the strikers, dig out the attacking players. Because we always say about Welbeck's work rate, Welbeck's what he brings to the team. At the end of the day, his main task is to score goals. He is a striker. And there was numerous times, not even yesterday or last night, sorry, even in previous games, he gets dragged out wide. And there's no one in the box to play the ball to. And then you've got to look at, well, sure, the midfielders got with bursting the gut to get in there. The likes of Lallana, Gross, McAllister, if he's out wide, they need some support for the middle. And it just hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. It seems like that Leicester game, Potter's last game, it seemed like it was the last real time that we've looked. Actually, no, obviously Liverpool. Take the Liverpool out of that. 45 minutes at Anfield, we battered them. We'd like to point out. But ever since then, we've just seemed to a little bit scared of attacking to an extent of the pace, the sheer pace. Like Chloe said, pace wins. This is such a FIFA 23 comment, but pace wins games. If you're running at players, they are going to be scared. And if Lallana or Gross is running at me, that wouldn't be a bad thing. That'd be exactly where you want them, because they're not going to outpace you, but they have the technical ability, if you stand off them, to ping a good pass. And it just seemed like it was missing yesterday. To be honest, I've not seen a goal this year. I've missed the Leicester game. I've missed the Leeds game. I've seen 2 0-0 draws, and it is incredibly frustrating. And I'm just done. with it, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's incredibly frustrating.
It is incredibly frustrating. So Joe, in the last episode, we talked about how Potter leaving us at a time when we felt like we were onto something special. But I think one point that needs to really be taken into account here, and I'm going to come to this point a bit earlier than I intended. Brighton have never been particularly good at playing teams near the bottom who have a low block and who are, you'll forgive me for using the phrase, teams that we're expected to beat. Last night was a game where, from the off, the punditry team were talking about Nottingham Forest going down. And I thought that was quite premature. We're in October and they're talking as if Nottingham Forest have got, nailed in the coffin. So I found that a bit premature. But once again, Joe, we come up against a team where most fans would have expected a result of some kind. Most pundits would have expected Brighton to run away with it, especially given Nottingham Forest's form. But were you surprised, Joe? I mean, I know we had a bit of a joke in the group chat that you said you thought it was going to end 0-0, and I called you an optimist because I fully expected Forest to score. But where do you stand on this idea of Brighton playing teams that they should be beating?
I mean, I was on a Nottingham Forest podcast the other day, and they were saying very much the same thing. We're 1 point off of bottom place, and you should be beating us. And my reply to that now, after so much of we've had the same treatment from clubs bigger and more capable than us, we should be beating them. For me, in the Premier League, no results are given, and anyone yesterday thinking we're going to go into this game and we're going to absolutely smash them. Have you been watching Brighton and Hove Albion over the last God knows how many seasons? It's not that simple. Football isn't that simple at the highest level, and you have to be 100% to even have a chance of winning the game. And we were lacking yesterday, and that's the harsh reality of it. Yeah, as Aaron said, Forest were unbelievably poor. And we've seen that last season against Norwich, the season before that against Sheffield United, when we played West Brom a few times. These really poor teams, as the media makes them out to be, have a way of frustrating us. And yeah, it's unbelievably frustrating, but we shouldn't sit there cursing and slagging our players off, which I've seen over social media, just because we haven't won a Premier League game. We move on from it. We learn from it. We get frustrated by it. But at the end of the day, there's going to be better days. There's going to be happier days. There's going to be better results. So for me, it's just very much a case of forget it and move on.
A very pragmatic response, Joe. And I think, it is worth remembering that even under Potter, who I think some fans are kind of looking back at now as like, they're almost like they're sort of revertigo, as I call it, with those rose-tinted specs and pretending that like everything was hunky-dory under Potter. This time last year when we were playing Leeds, and, obviously we know what happened there with the aftermath. We played Norwich last season, and it was a miracle we didn't get beaten at Carrow Road. Brighton historically have found it very difficult to come up against opponents near the bottom of the table and get out results, especially against teams that sit behind the ball. Now, Aaron, you've mentioned pace. You've mentioned that, and that is so important when you play these teams. So let's talk about the players that we have in the team that could hurt teams like Nottingham Forest last night. You've already mentioned that having Lallana and Gross in the team made you sort of, put some question marks in your head. So if you had to drop Lallana or Gross, doesn't matter who would you have brought in instead? Would you have played Lamptey, Estupinian? Would you have put Billy Gilmore in the squad? I'm just interested to see what we can, or what we think we can do to move that ball quicker.
See, it's if buts and maybes. That's the thing. You would have probably kept the same 11 that started Friday night, personally. Just due to the fact is I would personally love to see Billy Gilmore play. I mean, I want to see him play more minutes in the Brighton shirt. but I don't think he, at the moment, is better than Caicedo, better than McAllister. So he won't personally get in my opinion. Gross has played very well to start the season, and I said it in the group chat. He shaved his beard. He's been poor since. Just saying. It's like I said, it's all if buts and maybes. There's no real. I can't really give you a genuine answer because whatever I say doesn't matter because it can't change the result. Will it when we play Forest away at the end of the season? Will it be with the same team that started last night? More than likely, it will be because I feel like when we play four at the back, I don't think we look good. And I said this before last year, even under Potter. When we play four at the back, I don't know what seems to happen. It seems to be just defensively, just seem to switch off, and then we just sort of lose all sort of impetus going forward. And at least we were attacking yesterday, but if I'm honest, from after the Liverpool game, what's Trossard actually done?
Hit the bar yesterday. That's all I can think of.
Genuine question, because yesterday was like watching the old Trossard, where he would take on one defender, he would turn on it again, then lose the ball. It was a bit like, well, you're better than that. Like we have seen so much quality from you in the last season and a bit that to know, when you run at players, you can get past them. Same with March. I thought March was very poor yesterday. It's always the same story. Sorry, March. The end product isn't there, and it's brutal. But if the end product's not there, how can he keep his place? Genuine question. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're not creating chances or finishing chances, which to be honest, no one in the team is doing. We've had 54 shots since our last goal and we haven't scored. It's literally like we've woken back up into year 2020. It's madness. It baffles my mind. It generally baffles my mind.
Yeah, there's some really strong 2020-21 vibes going on at the moment.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's crazy, and I mean, to be fair, I mean, I wrote down the chances as they came yesterday. So let's have a quick look at some of the things that we did do quite well. So I've got March skips past Williams, but the defender gets back at him. He can't get the ball out from his feet quick enough, loses possession in the box. Frustrating. Solly puts in a lovely ball into the box. Lallana can't divert the ball towards goal. Veltman shoots over after Lallana puts him through from a corner. Trossard hits the bar. March gets away from Williams, forces a low save from Henderson at the near post. Henderson denies Gross to keep out from the top corner. Welbeck fires a snapshot from a corner straight at Henderson. Welbeck misses a free header at the back post that drifts wide. March puts in a lovely ball. No one is there to get a tap in. So it's not like we're not. I don't think it's not even that we're creating chances. I mean, it's just that no one is there to put them in. I think I can't remember who touched upon it. One of you guys touched upon this idea that we're getting the ball into reasonable positions, but there is no one in the box. I mean, that last one I pointed out about March putting in the ball, it literally just drifted through the Forest defence, and there is no one there just to get a knee on it or a foot on it to score.
And the frustrating thing there, Tom and Aaron, this isn't at your comment. This is mainly most comments that I see about Solly March. We say the end product isn't there, but as you say, that was a delightful ball. Someone's there to tap that in. We don't have that conversation. It just feels like a whole team thing at the moment. And I know we like to analyze and criticize players here, but and again, Aaron, this isn't at you. It's at the majority on Twitter. Why have we got to single out players and bring them down and talk badly of them? I know we can criticize, absolutely, but I've seen people call Welbeck a fraud. I've seen people say, get Solly March out of my club. It just really frustrates me, the level of immaturity around having a decent opinion on human beings and making comments that are actually quite damaging. And again, Aaron, that's not your comment. So yeah, I don't get it.
It's tough when the team don't score. It's very easy to get on players' backs. We've seen it before. We've seen it with Gross. We've seen it with Mopé. We've seen it with, going back further, Ashley Barnes. You name it. We've seen it all. Now, Chloe, I've just mentioned all the chances that I can remember from last night. Obviously, Aaron's already alluded to it. We've had so many shots, no goals. For you, Chloe, what's the issue here? Do you think this is a player issue or a coaching issue?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. As you said, we're creating chances, they're just not really taking them. I'm sick of keepers making brilliant saves against us. That's quite annoying when you're struggling to score and then their keeper makes a few good saves. It's like, where is our luck? I feel like the next goal we score is probably going to be an own goal or something. But I'm not too sure what the issue is. I wonder if it's a bit of a mentality thing. Now we haven't scored in so long, if they're sort of thinking about, oh my God, we haven't scored in however long. So then it makes it harder for them to score. And we're getting into positions, and I do think it'll come sooner rather than later. I don't know if we'll manage to score against City because it's City, but I just think we've got to keep doing what we're doing, and sooner or later it'll end up in the back of the net. Yeah.
So let's hope so. Let's hope that we've got the patience to wait that long. Joe, same question that I just asked Chloe. You've just mentioned there, and I've just mentioned. I mean, there were plenty of times last night, as Chloe says, that we've got into great positions, but there's just no one there to finish it. Do you see this as a coaching issue? And if that's the case, does that predate De Zerbi, or is this a player issue? And if it is a player issue, Joe, is this going to finally be enough to convince the club that perhaps, just perhaps, we need some reinforcements?
And I feel like Chloe hit the nail on the head, to be honest. I think it's a mentality thing. I think it's a low confidence. I think it's feeling what the fans are feeling. Apprehension, are we going to score again? How long is it going to be? And that weighs heavy. I'm sure it does. As I always say, these are human beings. They're not robots that can just score goals and perform when you want them to.
I think you'll find, Joe, you're talking about almost every football player, apart from a man that we'll probably come up against on Saturday, because I do not believe for a second that Erling Haaland is not a robot.
Yes, he is most definitely a robot of some kind from a different planet. I don't even know. And that scares me in itself. So thank you for that, Tom. Yeah, I think it's a mentality thing. But the real frustrating thing is we've seen what these players can do. We've seen the moments that these players can give us. So it has to be a player thing. I don't put it down to the coaching, because Roberto De Zerbi, I don't know you then, Tom. He's coached some fantastic games. We've had already an amazing game at Anfield against Liverpool. Yes, we probably should have won that game, but we'll move on from that. Then we played a really well drilled Tottenham side. And then obviously the last two results, yes, they are really disappointing. As I say, we've seen what these players can do, and we just have to back them all the way, because we've seen it. It will happen again. As I said at the start of the podcast, better days will come. We just have to remain patient.
We certainly do. And I just realised I missed off when I was talking about the chances. One of my favourite moments of the game last night, Aaron, where Solly March put in a free kick and no one did anything. It was just... you just have to laugh. You just have to laugh. And Aaron, I'm going to come to you on this next point, because I saw yesterday someone say the following statement: the Zerbi ball is worse than when we played under Sami Hyypiä. I invite you now, Aaron, to share your opinions on that particular comment.
Jesus. Okay.
Who said that?
Wasn't expecting.
I'm sure it won't surprise you to find out that it wasn't someone using their real name, and they were hiding behind the picture of a footballer. I can't remember their exact name.
I mean, To a certain degree, I get it. Because, and I would say it's only because, under Hoopier, we were so slow going forward. And when we had the ball in possession, we were so slow. That's literally where the similarities will end. Because under Hoopier, we wouldn't even bother really attacking. We would have the ball, but it'd be really slow. At least under Roberto, we actually are we are more adventurous than we were under Hoopier. That's night and day. Hoopier was ahead of his time, as we all know, but the man is clearly a football genius, but we never knew it and never got to see it. So it's a sad time for the club. But I don't know who on earth said that, but they need help. They need Jesus. That's what they need. They need Jesus.
They need to find something in their life, because I was very surprised. But like, when I don't often, obviously opinions are opinions, and they're like noses. Everyone's got one, and I never.
That opinion is wrong. That opinion is just plain wrong.
I was just about to say, I never think to myself, "Oh, your opinion's just wrong. You're just wrong." But that person, you're wrong. I think they're just. I hope they're just a troll who's searching for clicks and likes. But yeah, I can definitely see parallels, Chloe, to early Potterball, if I'm honest. As we've already spoken about, I suppose, very slow and ponderous. Can you see those parallels? And do you think that sometimes it's sometimes easy to look back upon the glory days of Potterball, the Man United 4-0, the Arsenal, the Tottenham games, and then conveniently forget about all the stuff that came before it?
Yeah, I mean, I do think Potter did make his fair share of errors, just changing things or not changing things soon enough, with that 7-game run where we lost 6 and then I think we drew 0-0 to Norwich. That was, that wasn't good. And I think sometimes people do look back and you only see sort of the good times. And what was the rest of the question? Sorry.
It was basically just that, I suppose, about, you've already sort of answered it there, about this idea that people look back on the good times. But actually, I don't know about you, Chloe, but I can definitely see the early Potterball in what De Zerbi's trying to achieve. And do you think that, it's just the players need time? Do the players need time?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think you can judge De Zerbi yet based on the last few games because it is such early days. The only thing I will say is I thought that we would change more for this game than just putting Lallana in, because obviously we did lose and it was quite a poor performance, I thought, against Brentford. So I did expect a bit more of a change. But yeah, I don't know. I think you've got to be patient. Because I think it will come good under De Zerbi, and we will start to score some more goals like we saw at Anfield. So just got to be patient.
Let's hope so, and let's hope that those goals come at the Etihad. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Joe, a few more things. I just want to talk about the game last night. There was some criticism about the use of substitutes. Again, this idea that things aren't working out. We saw the Lamptey sub quite early, which seemed really good. But once again, Danny Welbeck, pretty ineffective up top. But it took until the 84th minute to bring Undav on. What have you made of De Zerbi's use of substitutions so far?
I think that we can give more players a chance when games aren't going as well as we'd hope with our starting 11. Because I don't think there's much to lose when an attacker's not doing a job. So put in another attacker. If they don't do a job, then our defence will still hopefully do their job. So you're just sort of finding the balancing act of giving the people the chance at the right time. But I do feel like De Zerbi is waiting for the right time too long, if that makes sense. And I would have loved to see Enciso play yesterday. I would have loved to see Sarmiento come on, because they're completely different to what we had on that pitch, and they're fearless youngsters with pace. And we've said so many times already on this episode that we need pace to unlock 11 at the back defense. So yeah, it's frustrating, and I really wonder what the club's stance is on Evan Ferguson now he's signed a new contract today, new professional contract, because I'm sure that he's sitting there waiting for his chance to show what he can do. We've seen, I know it's Premier League 2, but we've seen that he can find the back of the net. We saw his, I believe, his competitive debut at West Brom, Tom, and he was really impressive there. And I know that they were in a league below us, but this guy has shown that he's got something about him. So why not have him on the bench, and why not have him come off? Have Danny Welbeck come off and see what he can do if things aren't going well. There's nothing to lose. So that does frustrate me. And especially the fact that you can use 5 substitutes now in the Premier League. Has anyone told Roberto De Zerbi that that's the rule now? I know he's been out of football for a while since he left Shakhtar. But yeah, we've got 5 substitutes. What a perfect opportunity to change a system, to change the way the game's going with 5 new players, 5 fresh legs. 10 fresh legs. So yeah, it baffles me.
Yeah, and I think, as Aaron alluded to as well, especially as Trossard, who I thought Trossard had a good first half, or a reasonable first half, and in the second half he just went missing. In the first half, Trossard did quite a good job of cutting in and causing problems. But in the second half, he just seemed to touch the touch, hug the touchline, and it just didn't seem to work for me. So I would have liked to have seen Sarmiento and Ciso, and in the end, I think March ended up playing as a striker. He was practically up top with Danny Welbeck. If that is not giving you serious alarm bells, I suppose then again it's no worse than playing Jurgen Locadia, which is what Potter resorted to last year. But it just shows you that why play March up top with Danny Welbeck if you could just bring Undav on, an actual striker who's scored goals for fun, yes, in lesser leagues. But, the man knows where the back of the net is. And Glenn Murray, I think, once famously said, the goals don't move. The goals don't move. It doesn't matter what league you're in. You get less time and space, sure. But actually, scoring a goal it's pretty simple if you think about it. But we move. I don't know what was worse, Aaron. The finishing, Nottingham Forest, or the referee. Now, speak.
So I've had my say before on really inept refs, and I feel like I'm going to repeat quite a lot of what I've already said. That ref last night was absolutely dreadful, and I mean dreadful. Didn't let the game flow. He fell for everything Nottingham Forest were doing, as in, i.e., a little bit of a touch on the back, falls to the floor. Just his whole entire... As a ref, and I get it's a hard job. I get it. Refereeing at the highest level, it can't be easy. Even refereeing the Sunday League is difficult. But there's simple refereeing you need to get right. Let the game flow. Make the correct calls, which sometimes, granted, you will get them wrong, and be confident in your decisions. He was confident in decisions. Shame that all of them were shit. There was one especially where Brendan Johnson just was on the floor. Just he had a knock previously, but then went on the floor. We got the ball back. We turned. We were basically on their 18-yard box. Now we'll blow it back. It's not a head injury. We didn't kick it out. Why have you stopped the play? Why? And the worst thing is he's come up from the Championship. If that's the level it is to get promoted from the Championship to the Premier League, to the big boys, then my God, this English state of refereeing is in a whole lot bigger crisis than we realise. It's not right. And you can't even say, no, demote him again. Because then that's unfair on the teams in the Championship. Having to deal with a net refs week in, week out. They've got VAR up here in the big leagues. They haven't down there. That they should be down in the lower leagues learning their trade and getting... I just don't get it. I just do not get it. Like, I've ref games myself. I wasn't a big fan, and it's difficult. But if you're at the peak of, your the peak level of refereeing, the officiating, you're England's top level refs, you should not be making those mistakes. Simple as. If you do make the mistakes, the VAR is there to change it, is it not? Granted, there was no contentious decisions that needed a massive change, but it's just little things. He just refereed it so poorly. So poorly. And it's... I said to my dad on the way home last night, I was like, if that is the standard of refereeing from where we used to be, as in you had Clattenburg, Howard Webb, even Mike Dean to a certain degree, at least you knew what you would get with them. At least you would understand, especially in Mike Dean's case, that yes, he'd love to be centre of attention. We sort of expected that from him. But these refs are coming up and thinking they can do the same, where at least Mike Dean's, reffed the FA Cup finals. Howard Webb's ref World Cups. He's reffed, the three refs have reffed at major tournaments. And now even the major tournaments are like, yeah, we don't really want the referees in England. That must say something to, wasn't it, Mike Riley, the FA refereeing lot. They must know how bad the level of refereeing is in this country. Like, they must do. But when you look at VAR in the sense as well, bringing VAR into it when they using European competitions, using World Cups, even in the Euros, it was quick, it was decisive, done. Here it takes 3-4 minutes to get the correct decision. It's just the state of refereeing in this country is a mess. It's an absolute mess.
Yes. I personally feel like it's about time that they are held to account and take a leaf out of rugby's book again. I know me and Tom say this quite a lot, but I think they should have a microphone on them. I think we should know what they say.
I personally would love that idea, but I tell you for why it won't happen. Because the players' abuse to the refs will get broadcasted on over TV, and the language they would use is atrocious. Like, let's be real. I was like, it'll be F this, F that. What the F are you doing? See, I'm not swearing. You see that? See, proud of me. But that's why it won't happen. I'd love that to happen, because I think it would actually give fans the perspective of a ref and explain why he's made those decisions and how he talks to the players. Because if you're not talking to the players as a ref, then you're making the game 10 times worse for yourself. It's similar if you're... I usually picked up on the rugby point there, Joe, is when a decision's made, the ref calls the captain over and player who has caused Z offence. In football, it's everybody goes over, shouting at the ref, hauling at him, calling him God knows what. And that is where I think part of the reason why the state of refereeing is where it is at is because the abuse, even from Sunday League football, there's no one who wants to be a referee. Like, no one wants to be a referee. Like, if you're happy to deal with constant shit everywhere, excuse the language, like constant abuse, then yeah, cool, by all means. Then you'll be happy to do it. I've seen some pretty inept refereeing decisions, even as a player, but I would never, ever be like, you should never ref again. Without them, we don't have the game. We don't play football. But you've got to be accountable to some of the decisions. Just frustrating. Even last night, my old team, Forest Row, there was a red card in that game, and the players made the ref send our player off. And it was a fantastic tackle. Wasn't a horrendous tackle, but the other team made it a lot worse than it was. And to be fair, they've had 2 in the last couple of weeks, actually. But we won't go into that detail because no one really cares.
I care, Aaron. I care. But no, I think we've raised the points we've all spoken about before, and it is, I suppose, the only saving grace that it didn't have a negative impact on the game in the sense that we conceded or we lost because of it. But I suppose it's one of those things you just never know what could have happened. For instance, if once after we pinched that possession on the edge of the 18-yard box, if the referee hadn't have blown up for something that wasn't a head injury, you just never know what might have happened. So I think that's the frustrating part. But I don't think there's really that much more to say about the game last night. I suppose I just want your last thoughts, your summarising of last night. Well, go on, Aaron. I see your hands up. It's like class. Yes, Mr.
It is like
Budgie.
class. I also don't think we've made enough said really about how bad Forest actually were.
Oh yeah, they were terrible.
They were bad. And I said to my, because you mentioned it earlier, a well-drilled Spurs team. I thought Spurs were the second worst team I've seen in the Amex because they are football terrorism. They are terrorists. They just sit and do nothing all game. It was awful to watch that game. Spurs weren't even that good. Spurs were not even that good. They just sat there in a block and done nothing. Forest done the exact same thing, but they literally done nothing. Like, they had no outlet. They tried to play out for the back numerous times, and they can't. They have not got the facilities for that. Simple as. They're not. Dean Henderson is not a very good goalkeeper, in my opinion. He's a very flashy goalkeeper. He thinks he's better than what he actually is. You've got Scott McKenna, Steve Cook, and whoever the hell the other centre-half was. They're not good on the ball. Dear me, poor sods. It's like, why are you giving them such a hard task and you've got players right up their backside? It's like, go to your strengths and play long, but you're playing a winger up front. That poor Brendan Johnson, who's maybe very good. He's not going to get anything, is he, from Duncan Webster? So, yeah, they were awful. I will happily say they were probably the worst team I've seen at the Amex. And yet we didn't win. So there we go.
Yeah. But that is, as we've said many times, that is the Brighton way. So let's just, I suppose, wrap up our post-Forest with just a bit of summary about your feelings about the game. Joe, to come to you really short, quick, how the game made you feel. And yeah, just your last comments on it, really.
Yeah, it was fun.
Love it. Short, sweet, to the point. Aaron, how about you, mate? Be even shorter. And Chloe, your last thoughts on the game, please.
No real urgency, no penetration. It was just a bit like.
Don't say it. That's
and
what
Tom,
she said.
Oh, you did it. Your last words on it.
That's me done. Sorry, I'm really, really sorry because that's really immature. Anyway, but yeah,
that's poor from you, Tom. I expect better from you, Mr. Budgeon.
It's because I'm rewatching The Office. But anyway, less about that. Yeah,
if it was me and Curtis, I would understand the comment, but from you, sir, not good enough.
Sorry, everyone. I'm really sorry that I've lowered the tone of the episode. So yeah, I agree. Just poor. Frustrating, so frustrating. It's like, what year am I in? So let's look ahead then to Manchester City, who are on the back of a defeat. So that's going to be fun. Up against the robot that is Erling Haaland at the Etihad. Joe, do you feel confident?
Okay, for the audio listeners, go onto YouTube, go to about 44 minutes. Pray for us. Just pray for us. They want a response after Liverpool. That game didn't go at all how they wanted it to go. He's going to get him unbelievably fired up during the week, and we might be about to join the 9-0 club, guys. So yeah. The South Coast is living the dream.
Yeah, I thought we struggled with Ivan Toney, big physical player that he is. He is nothing in comparison to Haaland. Methinks we're going to be in trouble. Aaron, what are your thoughts ahead of City, please?
Oh, no. Make it stop. It's going to be horrendous. It's not going to be fun, is it? Let's be real. Even if we were had Potter top of we were second in the league, cruising, we would still probably have no hope in hell because the man is a genuine robot. he has no feelings, no emotions. He just has 2 feet. He's strong. He's quick. He can head the ball. He can hold up play. He can dribble. He is the perfect striker. That's one of their best players. They've still got another 10. You know, it's it's going to be terrifying. To be fair, I'm glad that I'm playing football, so I won't be able to witness what happens to us. If it's 9-0, it probably wouldn't even be the fact we played that bad. To be honest, it's probably the fact is they're gonna absolutely destroy us.
Can I come and play football with you?
Of course you can. Of course you can. By all means. By all means, more the merrier. Just not trying to sound like, Mr. Negative that, I never am. It's not who I am. Come on now, guys. But we are going to be in the backlash of some serious heat wave from Guardiola. He loves Brighton, though. Yeah, lovely club to play against. Yeah, because you always beat us, Pep. That's why. And I'm really not looking forward to it. The fact they've got a week off as well is not helpful. And, unless all of a sudden their squad gets wiped with COVID and then they play to be fair, even if they play their B team, they'll still probably beat us. That's the worst thing about it, because their B team's as good as most Premier League's first teams, which isn't particularly helpful. I really wish they smashed Liverpool. And then they'll think, we'll just ride the wave and then we can just nick a 1-0 win up there. Nah. Too good to be true.
It was.
Bloody
Chloe, are you heading to Manchester at the weekend? Because I know you do a lot of away trips. Thoughts and prayers for you, Chloe. Are you looking forward to your journey up there?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it would be so like Brighton to get a result, but City are just going to be so fired up after that result against Liverpool, and I can't see us getting anything. I just hope it's not too horrendous. Yeah, I have to laugh, otherwise I'll cry.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But as you say, it would be the most Brighton thing in the world to not get a result against Nottingham Forest, probably the worst team in the league by far, go to Man City and somehow out of nowhere get something. Stranger things have happened. Not very often, though. Just before we go off air then, guys, let's talk about score predictions, please. Joe, what are your score predictions ahead of Manchester City, please?
Before I give this horrible hard fact, I just want to say on the last podcast, I predicted that we wouldn't get a result against Nottingham Forest. And I said that our next win would come against Chelsea at home. And what a return that would be for Graham Potter, Bruno, and co. So I'm hoping next week brings us a lovely positive result. In terms of the City result, I think we will lose 5-0. I'm sorry.
Fair. Aaron, score prediction, please.
Anything under 5 I'll take, to be honest. So we move.
We certainly do. Chloe, score prediction, please.
I never predict a loss, so I'm going to be optimistic and go 2-2.
Tom, score prediction, please.
Oh, I'm going to go with a repeat of the Anfield game. I'm going to go 3-3 because why not? We haven't scored for 3 games. Now we're going to score 3 because Brighton. So yeah, that won't happen. By the way, that's not going to happen.
We're going to score 3 at the Etihad. Where have we scored a Premier League goal at the Etihad?
Nope. Have we?
I think we have. I think we scored
Leonardo Joa.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, there you go, indeed.
Yeah.
So
it's fine. It's fine.
It's going to be fine.
Saturday's a free hit. Doesn't matter what the score is. Our main focus, in my opinion, should be the Chelsea game for obvious reasons. Was the last 2 games out of October the one who should have picked up points on? Yes. Those are the 2 games I would like 6 points from. Did it happen? No. We got 1 out of 6. That's fine. Cool. We crack on. It will be difficult Saturday. Let's not be, let's not be kidding ourselves a little bit here. It's going to be backs against the walls job. It'd probably be like watching us, Forest against us, to be fair. We'll be the Forest this time. But hopefully we'll have a bit more about us than they did. Just enjoy it. Let's be real, like, we're playing against world-class players. Jesus, man. Haaland, like we said before, is a machine. De Bruyne and co are playing against our little club. Like, Jesus, crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's mad. Yeah. I think, as we said, we'll just have to ride the wave, ride the storm. And as Aaron has said, it's a free hit. So let's not let the results get us down at the weekend, presuming that we lose. So, yeah, we move. So there you go, guys. That's the end of our Nottingham Forest analysis. Please let us know in the comments what your thoughts on the game were, what you would do to improve our wretched goal-scoring form. What is the answer? Is the answer playing Solly March as a striker? Is it Jason Steele who should be the man up top instead of Danny Welbeck? Let us know. Gully.
The real Gully.
The real Gully, yeah. Let us know in the comments down below what your thoughts are. What can Brighton do to get out of this wretched form? And what are your score predictions and thoughts ahead of Manchester City? Don't adjust your television sets, guys. It is not 2020. It is not 2021. Goals will come. They just might take a while to get here. In the meantime, though, wherever you are, whenever you are, we'll see you next time. Take care.